Hey everybody, thanks for joining me for a very quick little inspirational video that will show you how you can do a fun, quick craft project this fall. And actually it's a skill that once you learn it, you can do it for any holiday or season, so that's one of the great benefits. But we are going to be learning how to decoupage, which basically just means, affixing like napkins and paper to items with Modpodge. And Modpodge is just a really simple, sort of almost like glue-like item that you can use to decoupage soft paper-like materials onto other materials. And you'll see what I mean at the end after we work with it a little bit. But basically what you're looking at here is a wooden box that I bought, and it originally all looked like this. But with some napkins, I was able to put like this cool little design all over it. Just a different napkin on every side, napkins with the same designs. And it's super fun. And so this one is a little bit more autumnal. And then I grabbed some spidery napkins and did a sort of like Halloween themed box, and I need to still put some on this side and this side. So yeah, we're gonna jump into this cool little craft project today.
To get started, you really just need an object that is solid that you don't mind putting a design on. I'm choosing wood pieces in this project. You could theoretically do this with glass or metal though. All of the wood pieces that I'm using here I purchased at the Dollar Tree in Crawfordsville, and they are all just $1. You also need Modpodge, and Modpodge comes in many different finishes, so if you want glossy, you can use glossy. You're gonna need acrylic paint for a base color. I'm using black on some of my pieces just because of Halloween, but a lot of people probably would be into the farmhouse look if you get white. You also need napkins with a design you like, because the napkins are really like the entire basis of the project, so these all came from the Dollar Tree as well. To start, I'm just going to apply a base paint of color to my piece, and again I'm using black, but I saw the TikToker that I watched this do this, that I got the inspiration from, used white. So use whatever color you think is going to fit your aesthetic and the project the best. And modify it depending on what holiday you are choosing to do a piece for. And same thing, I'm just going to put a base of black on this this little wood panel thing that I bought. I actually ended up wanting to do this one in white, so I might go back and do this one in white later. The black ended up being a little bit too dark of a basis for the brown napkins that I'm going to end up using on this little wooden piece. And I'm just using a sponge to apply here. You can use a brush, you can use whatever, you just need to get the paint on the piece. So sponge is really nice for that, I thought. Now you just need to take your napkins while your piece is drying with that base color of paint, and you need to peel your napkins apart into the thinnest layer possible. It's a little bit hard to get it started. I usually kind of tear my napkin a little, and then you can kind of see where the edge is that you can start pulling apart. But again, you want it to be tissue thin. Usually napkins have 2 or 3 layers, and you want it down to just 1. So got my spider isolated here, and there is no measuring in this project. The really fun aspect of this is that we're gonna burn away the excess at the end. So you just wanna make sure that your napkin will cover whatever surface you're looking at the time that you're working. I'm doing this side, so I just need, again, my napkin to cover this side of the wooden box. So I'm gonna lay down a really thin layer of Modpodge on the box. It does not need to be thick. It does not need to be like all gooped up on there. If you do get it gooped up on there, I suggest just wiping your sponge or your brush across it to kind of take the excess off. Take your really thin napkin layer and then just lay it on there. Press it down pretty well. You especially want the edges to be nice and crisp and really sealed down, because of how I mentioned, we're actually gonna be burning away the excess, and the crisper you kind of get it pressed down, I think the better and the cleaner the edge will look in the end. And then we just wanna repeat the process on every side of the box. So I chose to mix the pumpkins with the spiders on that one, and I did all 4 sides. Here I'm doing the little wooden hanging plank thing. And again, just you wanna make sure that you peel your napkins apart. And then once you get it down to a thinner tissue layer, I actually decided to kind of like layer my napkins in a collage style up this plank. So just split your napkins up and then you can tear them. You can do whatever you need to get them down to a more workable size, but you don't have to make it perfect. All of the little edges that are hanging off kind of freely, again, we're gonna burn them away. Unless you don't want to. That is an alternative. FYI, later on I'll be showing you how to burn these safely, but if you are, for whatever reason, working in an environment where that's not an option, you could just take scissors and trim afterward, or even tear, like just tearing the napkin against the wooden edge, I think would probably work really well. But here I am going in with Modpodge, putting down another layer before I add another layer of napkin as well. The Modpodge can go on top of the napkin that was laid down first. That's actually how we're gonna seal the whole thing, is with a layer at the end. So putting Modpodge underneath and on top of the napkins will not hurt them whatsoever. Honestly, Modpodge is very easy and friendly to work with. You're not gonna hurt anything with it. It's basically like a really watered down glue. So don't be afraid to experiment and see what you can do with it. And also don't worry, it is going to dry clear. So even though it's going on and you can see that it's a little bit streaky and white as I'm using it to kind of glue things down, later on it's gonna look even more streaky and white when it goes on top of the napkins, and that's okay. It really does dry clear if you don't put it on there too thick and clumpily. And I'm just finishing up at the top, just tearing around little pieces of napkins to make it work. Then comes the really fun part of this project. Like I said, I mean, you do not have to do this, so don't do it if you don't want to, but I think all of us like to burn a little bit. So just get a lighter or a match and safely, you know, on a patio or in a sink or something, you're just gonna light those little excess bits of napkin on fire, the ones that are flapping around that didn't actually get glued down to your wooden piece. And I have to do this several times on this wooden plank, because the more you layer the napkin pieces together, or if there's any residual sort of like wetness from the Mod Podge or the glue, it just will require burning it a couple of different times to get all of the excess gone. But here I go, just lighting stuff on fire. The box was a little bit more intimidating because there was so much extra. So if you have a lot of extra and you don't want to do this, if it freaks you out at all, you can also tear away excess before lighting on fire if you just want a little bit of the fun effect. But here we go, my box is really just kind of burning down, and those napkins are gonna leave a really clean, nice edge against the wood, as you can see. And then if your box has any little cutout pieces, again, you can just light the napkin on fire there too, either by holding the match to the inside or the outside of where that cutout is, and it will do the same. It'll just go away really nicely. These bottom flaps, you could also do it too. It doesn't really matter. You could tear them as well. Nobody really looks at the bottom. And that is this fun aspect of this project. After you've got everything burnt, we just want to seal our piece. And we're using Mod Podge to seal. This wouldn't necessarily be watertight, but it is going to make it fairly resistant to being scratched or damaged or anything like that. And the Mod Podge that I'm using, like I mentioned earlier, has a bit of a glossy finish, like you could see with the box a moment ago when I was like flipping it around. There's a bit of a shine to it. If you don't like that, you could get matte Mod Podge. I think there's even glitter varieties, but you are just gonna take your Mod Podge and put a layer of it on top of all of the napkin pieces that you set down earlier. And it can be a bit thicker than what you used when you were gluing the napkin down. But again, we just want to kind of make sure that it's uniformly applied. So if you get a pretty thick glob on there, try to smear it out with your sponge or your brush. Same thing over here. I'm just putting one layer of Mod Podge on top of the entire thing, moving in the direction that's friendly with the napkins. I don't want to like tear them by pushing up against them in the wrong way. And I think on video I'm only doing one layer, but you can do, frankly, I think as many as you want. The more you put on there, the more kind of gluish it's gonna look eventually. But 2 or 3 layers would be totally acceptable and would make it even more resistant to any kind of damage and scratching. that could occur. So with this piece, I'm just going in, it's not tacky anymore, so that means it's safe to put another layer on. You don't have to wait like 24 hours or anything for it to be fully set. And here you go. You can see really well here. I am going in pretty thick with it, smearing and smoothing it out. And then I feel really confident that this box is gonna be usable for quite a few years with that layer of sealant on top. Also be aware that as you put it on, it's gonna look a little bit darker than it will once it's fully dried. Just like with anything liquid, it goes on darker and then it will dry a bit lighter later on. And that's basically all there is to this project. You can adapt this to all sorts of uses and needs and decorative desires. So think about how you could do really cool, even presents for people for the holidays, but definitely decorations for the holidays. Not only ones upcoming like Christmas, but even spring stuff. I don't know. You can do so much, like I said, once you learn this art of decoupage. You can work with decorative papers. Newspaper is like a really big thing, like layering newspaper or maps, cardstock, wrapping paper, anything that is soft and pliable that can be put on another object, you can decoupage with. One more thing I wanted to say is that we also have a few books here at the library that might be helpful if you want to try to get into this as a craft hobby. Do come and check out our books because I'm sure they're full of project ideas and also different techniques that you could use. There's one specifically for Modpodge, using Modpodge itself, that I really would like to look at eventually too. So consider that if you think this was kind of fun, and if you could see yourself wanting to really get into it for other projects in the future. Thanks so much for watching this video with me today. Let us know if you have any questions. Send us photos of your finished work. We would love to see what you do. And happy crafting. Go out there and enjoy the world of decoupage. Thanks so much. Bye.